Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today I have my friend and fellow Pokemon player Bryan Bear with us. We're going to be going over his Vespiquen Zoroark-GX deck for the expanded format. He recently took top 4 at a League Cup with it, and I haven't been seeing this deck being talked about too much. I didn't even think Vespiquen decks were still a thing in Expanded, and I figured with Dallas coming up, we would talk about this deck a bit. So we're going to start off with the analysis of the list, why certain cards are in there, why certain cards aren't, and then Brian's going to share his tournament report with us from last weekend. But first, Brian, why don't you introduce yourself?
All right, what's up, everyone? My name's Bryan Bear. I started playing Pokemon around, say, 3 years ago, and this year was the first year I really started to get competitive into it, really started to travel, and right now I'm sitting about 143 CP.
Cool. So 3 years competitive play. Cool, cool. Well, this is your first year. You're going for your invite and stuff.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so tell me why you picked this deck to play in Expanded.
All right, well, I've always liked bees. I've been playing bees ever since it came out in Ancient Origins. But Oricorio, Karen kind of scared it off a little bit. But then I came back to it with Zoroark because I felt like the ability to trade and discard your Pokemon after being, say, Karen can really help out. I think, and the fact that they both attack for double color, this is like amazing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just feel comfortable with the deck overall.
Cool, cool. So this was just for a League Cup. Are you going to Dallas?
Yeah, I'll be going to Dallas.
Okay, is this a choice you have for Dallas?
Of course, it's
Okay.
I'd say in the top two.
Okay, cool. Cool. So have you been testing this a lot have you been focusing on Expanded since you're going to Dallas?
Yeah, I'd say the past few weeks I've been really testing for Dallas, and I kind of threw this build together, kind of out of nowhere. I know, I mean, there's a lot of Zoroark running around, which is why I decided to throw the Maxie's build in with Glade.
Cool. Okay, so let's go over the list.
Okay.
So we'll start out with the main attackers. We have 4/4 Vespiquen. For anyone who doesn't know, Vespiquen has Be Revenge, which for a DCE hits 20 damage and 10 more for every Pokemon in the discard. 20 base, 10 more. Okay. Just because we don't have the cards up, it's just the picture of your list. So 4/4 Vespiquen and a Vespiquen deck's pretty standard.
Yep.
Then we have 4 Zorua and 3 Zoroark-GX and one of the stand-in Zoroark. You already mentioned the Zoroark trade is really great to get Pokemon in the discard initially, and also to return them there if they get Karened back into your deck.
Exactly.
What does the Zoroark stand-in? What purpose does that serve for you?
Pretty much just to hit numbers that maybe Zoroark-GX can hit, or Vespiquen can hit early on. Say they fill up their bench, or even for a deck that plays Skyfield, they stack their bench with 8, slap down stand-in Zoroark, and hit for huge numbers.
Okay, cool. So is there a specific matchup in testing that made you keep the Zoroark, or is it just good in a lot of places, a lot of different situations?
I mean, the fact that it's a one prize attacker is pretty helpful. And also, I'd say the Zoroark Lycanroc matchup, if they stack their bench with, or even non-Zoroark, they stack their bench with Skyfield, and you come in and smack a Zoroark or a Lycanroc with the stand-in, it's pretty nice.
Cool, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we have 4 Unknown with Farewell Letter. That's pretty standard for a Vespiquen build. When it's on your bench, you can discard it from your bench to draw a card. So you're drawing cards and cycling through your deck and also getting another Pokemon into the discard pile. Next, we have something really interesting. We got 2 Gallade. So you're running the Maxie's Gallade engine here, which used to be pretty popular and expanded and has died off recently, I would say. A lot of decks used to run the Maxie's Gallade. We had Night March with it, Evil Tall with it. So, like you said, you were, I think you said a few minutes ago, you added Gallade for all the Zoroarks around.
Exactly.
So how has the Maxie's engine been working for you? Do you get it out against those Zoroarks?
I'd say, I think except for one game, at the League Cup, I got Gallade out every game,
Nice, nice.
which is pretty amazing.
And so,
and then
oh, go ahead.
just
Continue.
one-shotting. Oh, sorry, but one-shotting Zoroark is just pretty good too.
Yeah, that's really good. And do you use it even if you're not playing against Zoroark? You just put it
Oh
out
yeah.
anyway?
Yep.
Cool, cool. Then 2 Shaman, pretty standard. 1 Lele, 1 Mew, 1 Oricorio. So the Oricorio could be for Mirrors or Night March, primarily.
Precisely.
Decks that work the same as yours. The Mew EX, what is that there for, and do you like it after
Okay,
the tournament?
so I had it in there for Buzzwole, pretty much just for that matchup alone, and I didn't use it once all day.
Right. Buzzwole Landorus Garb is getting some talk around it for Dallas. I'm not going to Dallas, so I'm not too into the meta. But I do know that Buzzwole Landorus Garb has been it has a little bit behind it. So do you think Mew is worth keeping in if you take this deck to Dallas?
So currently, I actually swapped out the Mew for a Propagate Execute,
Oh, okay.
but I don't know. I'm thinking because Buzzwole is getting a lot of hype, so I'm in between those 2 cards right now in that spot.
Yeah, it's not getting like too much hype, but it's getting more than I thought it would for expanded.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I didn't even realize that Execute was missing. That we used to have that in like every Vespiquen deck, I think, because getting that Propagate back to Ultra Ball it away or trading it away. Oh my god! When I was I had Zoroark expanded Zoroark Lycanroc built because I was going to go to that cup, but then decided not to drive 4 hours for a cup because that's ridiculous. And that was the first time I had played a Zoroark deck with eggs in it, and this just propagate trade. It felt like I was cheating. Like,
Yeah,
it's so good. Okay, so let's go to the trainers. 4 Versus Seeker, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Battle Compressor, all standard. The Battle Compressor will get your that'll get your Pokemon to the discard, get your Gallade in there so you can max use it. It gets a supporter in there sometimes if you want to Versus Seeker it. Special charge, since you're only running the 4 DCE. That is, I can't imagine not playing that in the deck, actually. That would be really scary. 1 Rescue Stretcher, 1 Field Blower, 2 Choice Band, 1 Float Stone, 1 Dowsing Machine. So I have 2 questions for your item lineup. One, was it hard to decide whether or not to play Puzzles of Time?
Yes, I had that in the original build, and just it kind of made it a little clunky, and I wanted to kind of dig through the deck faster, so Puzzle didn't exactly allow me to do that at times.
If I'm a player that wants to play this deck and I don't like the Maxie's Gallade, do you think cutting those 4 cards out, would the next 4 cards to be put in, do you think would be Puzzle?
Easily.
Okay, cool.
Easily.
That's what I thought. As soon as I realized Puzzle wasn't in here, I was like, I see 4 other important cards that are probably in its place.
Yep.
And your ace spec is Dowsing Machine. So my thoughts on other choices could be Computer Search or Life Dew. Why Dowsing Machine?
So Dowsing Machine actually came in clutch a lot during the tournament. I think I found it easier to get off maxis with Dowsing Machine compared to Computer Search. It sounds a little crazy, but it helped a lot. And then I'll go over it a little bit more, but certain matches, Dowsing Machine really saved my life. So,
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it for the items. Now over to the supporters. 3 Juniper, 2 Maxis, 2 Guzma, 1 N, 1 Hex, and 1 Ranger. So nothing too special there. We already went over the Maxis, which is kind of the standout supporter in that lineup. 2 questions for your supporter lineup. We have 2 Guzma, and I've seen a lot of expanded decks doing 1 Guzma, 1 Lysander. Why don't you do the 1-1 split?
Well, it's funny because now I actually swapped out 1 Guzma for a Lysander.
Okay.
But before that, I guess I had the idea that maybe some things would get stuck in the active, and it would be an easier way to move them out of the active. So that's why I went with 2 for the cup.
Okay, cool. And next, Pokemon Ranger. I guess that's for Giratina.
Yeah, Tina for sure, because if a Chaos Wheel gets off,
You
I
lose.
kind of lose.
Yeah.
And then for Toad too.
Okay. Cool. Cool. And we have 4 DCE, and that's the end of the list. So, before we go into the tournament report, why don't you tell me, how do I want to say this? Tell me the average setup that you want to get with the deck. Like, do you start attacking with the Zoroarks? Do you go for big B revenges right off the bat? What does a normal first couple turns look like against most of the decks?
Okay, so an ideal setup, say Zora or Combi active. From there, depending on the matchup, Battle Compress Mew if it's not needed, or Oricorio if it's not needed, and then of course Gallade and Maxis. So get them all in the discard first, and then primarily early game attack with Zoroarks just because they're big and bulky,
Right.
and then Vespiquen to come in and clean up knockouts for the game.
Cool. Awesome. Sounds like a really good game plan. So it's kind of like a beat stick deck. Like, so you'll have the Zoroarks going in the beginning, hitting for what they can, maybe not getting one shots, but by the end of the game, what are the numbers you'll hit with B Revenge in the end game?
End game,
Yeah. Do you usually get one shots on whatever you want?
yeah, I mean against Galissapod, I hit that a couple times, and end game, it was hitting that number.
Cool.
Especially if I had a choice band on a B,
Right.
it'll get there pretty easily.
So you're playing, let me count real quick, 16, 20, 27 Pokemon, I believe?
Yep.
Okay, So, yeah, if you get 19 this card, that's 210, or if you have 16 and a choice band, that's 210. Okay, so yeah, when you're thinking about it, like you have 27 Pokemon, getting 16 in the discard doesn't sound too bad. Cool. Okay, so let's go into the tournament report. So, Reading, Pennsylvania, expanded cup. How many rounds, and what was the top cut?
So 5 rounds total.
Okay.
I think there were above 30 players.
I believe it was 33. I saw.
33.
I
okay,
think
I was
so.
gonna say yeah.
So we'll say 30ish.
So 30 plus players, 5 rounds, and yeah.
And top 8, correct?
Oh yeah, top 8. Sorry.
Okay, so what did you play round 1? Just go ahead and start your matches.
All right, so round 1, I went against Night March, and I was going into that kind of decent, like kind of evenly paced decks. Night March can set up faster, obviously, because they don't have to evolve.
Right.
And I mean, it was a good game overall. We traded knockouts back and forth, but towards the end of the game, it was 2-2 prizes, and he Lysanders up a Zoroark-GX and comes in with a Marshadow and knocks it out of the game. So then I start off 0-1.
Okay.
Then
did Oricorio come into play there, or did he play around it?
It did come into play for a little bit, but I think it was too late because I dropped it and took double knockout on 2 Joltix on the bench, which seemed pretty decent, but not enough to set me ahead.
Okay, cool. Okay. So, did you set up fine and they just ran faster because they don't have to evolve?
I didn't get a Gallade setup that game. That was the only game of the day that I didn't get Gallade set up.
Okay.
So I don't know if that hindered my setup or not, but kind of slowish compared to Night March.
Okay. So let's move on to round 2.
So round 2, I played against Joe Jennings. He was playing Lycanroc Garb, and the Lycanroc, I think he played a couple of the crunch ones, so it was more of an energy denial deck.
Okay.
Which I was pretty scared of since
you only have 4.
Yep. So I start unknown, and I'm like, oh, this is not gonna go well. Start unknown, and my hand's dead. So I had to drop a Mew EX so I wouldn't get donked.
Okay.
And I dead drew for about 3 turns, and then I top deck a compressor on turn 4, which I can throw some stuff away, and then I can finally VS Seeker to get out of it.
Okay.
And then at that point, I hit 2 Cone Bees, bench them, and at this point, he's already up 3 prizes to 6.
Okay.
So,
So you got
so he
some
goes,
work to do.
yeah, like middle of the game, he's up 3 prizes to 6, and I'm like, this is not looking good. But eventually, I get a couple of Vespiquen set up, and they start swinging on the Lichen Rocks for weakness, and I managed to pull a comeback in that match.
Nice, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Round 3?
Round 3 was against Zoroark-Lichen Early on, I get a quick knockout on Rock Ruff on the bench with the Lele, and then I had a Zoroark set up. Oh, actually, Zoroark, and then I get 2 Gallades set up after that.
Oh.
And he didn't set up any Lichen Rocks,
Okay.
so he pretty much had straight Zoroark set up, and then the 2 Gallades that I had set up, just the rest was his.
Yeah, you can't do too much there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you win round 3 against Lycanroc Zoroark.
Yep.
You go aggressive on them with the Gallades, which is how you should. So you're at 2-1 going into round 4. What's round 4?
All right, so round 4, I go against TJ Knowles. He's playing Zoroark.
Okay.
So in this matchup, I kind of rush a little bit. And I take some early prizes. I go down to 2 prizes fairly quickly, but then I kind of the game gets kind of slow from then on.
Okay.
I can't find DCs, and then with 2 prizes left, I get a Maxis off, find a Gallade, or I get the Gallade down, draw 5.
Okay.
And I don't see a DCE.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, this might get bad. But then I used my only trade that I had left. Second card was a DCE.
Nice.
And managed to knock out the Zoroark for game.
Nice.
So I win that round in round 4.
Okay, and your last round 5?
Round 5 was against Bulu Vigavolt. It was actually Vinny was playing a standard Bulu deck in Expanded.
Okay.
And I give him props because he was, I guess, 3-1 going into that round 2. And he set up really well later on in the game. But early on, I started Shaman.
Okay.
And I put a few things on the bench, and I was forced to just Sky Return with a band for 60.
Okay.
And then after that, he doesn't get Vigavolt out until turn 3, I want to say. So the active Bulu isn't set up.
Okay.
So I Sky Return it for 60, and then Gallade actually comes in and finishes up that Bulu. And then he's slowly getting set up from then on. I actually get a stand-in Zoroark in play, and Guzma up a Lele because he had a full bench.
Oh, okay.
And then choice banded that Zoroark and stand-in knockout.
Nice.
And then that puts me down to 2 prizes. And then at that point, Vespiquen came in and cleaned up the last Bulu for a knockout because there was, I say I was swinging for over 200 at that point.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So there's virtually I don't think there's much change between expanded Bulu and standard Bulu anyway.
Very true.
Was he playing an ace spec or was it just straight standard?
No, it was straight standard.
Okay.
He didn't have a VS Seeker or anything.
Okay, yeah. Bulu, even before Versus Seeker rotated, didn't play Versus. Oh. Yeah, I don't think it played
right.
Versus Seeker. So the deck is like almost untouched between formats, aside from running an ace spec. Okay, so you win that game and you go into top as 4-1.
Yep. So I was thinking about IDing that round 5, but I checked my resistance and it was like 37. So I didn't want to risk it.
Yeah, you can't.
So I was like, all right, I guess I'll play it out.
Okay, cool.
So
cool.
Yeah, 4-1 going into top 8.
And okay, so what are you seeing in top 8? What's your top 8 match?
Top 8, I go against Zoropod.
Okay, cool.
And this matchup is kind of tough because the constant Acerola can really give the deck some trouble.
Yeah, so if you're not taking one shots, they're probably making your attack irrelevant and then just knocking out your Vespi.
Exactly. So it's kind of tough. Um, both of these games, this was against John Boyle in top eight. So both the games are pretty close. And I go 2-0, but both games I go down to 0 cards in deck and then end up winning off. Yeah, they were two of the craziest games I've actually ever played. So
Damn.
game one, it was down to I had like 3 cards left in deck. So dowsing machine for the special charge. That's another thing I like with the dowsing machine is that you can do special charge twice if need be.
Nice.
So I dowsing machine the special charge, get 2 special energies, DCs back in the deck. And then I stretcher for a shaman, set up, and find the DCs. And I think that was when I knocked out a Galissapod for game. So that was game 1. So I take game 1, and then game 2, same situation, no cards in deck. I stretcher 3 Pokemon back into the deck, play my hand down to 0, or sorry, down to 1, which was Maxie's.
Oh, God.
Maxie's put the Gallade down and knock out a Zoroark for game.
So you rescue stretchered Pokemon back into the deck. Did you have a special charge in there as well? Or
Oh no, the Gallade on the bench had a DCE already set up.
okay, so but what did you Maxies for?
Oh, a second Gallade.
Okay. Did you need
So
the
I had-
second Gallade?
I needed to play a supporter. in order to hit.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
For Sensitive Blade. Okay, now I
Dude.
got it.
It was crazy. So
Yeah,
yeah, that got
that's
me
really cool.
the 2-0 against that.
Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds like a really grindy matchup.
It's tough. I mean, the constant Acerola and not being able to like take knockouts while they take knockouts back is kind of tough.
Okay, so you 2-0 your top 8 match, and you go into top 4. And what is that verse?
So top 4, I go against Ryan Antonucci.
Okay. And he
And-
ended up winning the tournament, correct?
Yep, correct. So he was playing Zoropod, and game 1 I had a pretty decent setup, but he slaps down a Sudowoodo early on,
Oh, okay.
and when I tried to get down to Maxie's, I realized that my bench has 4 on it.
Oh, wow, okay. So you
Yeah,
played your
so-
hand down to 1, and it was Maxies that you couldn't play.
Yep. So I kind of stalled out a little bit there. I ended up trading into Sycamore to get out of the dead hand.
Okay.
And then, so I don't get a Gallade out till like really mid game. And the constant like spamming Acerola on the Galissapods and Zoroarks that I don't knock out is kind of giving me trouble. And then he actually does a few good Guzma plays to take 3 knockouts on 3 GXs that I had on board.
Okay,
So
wow.
he takes game 1, and then game 2, I go a bit crazy with compressors,
Okay.
so to say, and I throw a lot of Pokemon away. And I have Combi, Zora on the bench, and I think a Zoroark active. And he slaps down an Oricorio.
Okay.
So double knockout on my Combi and Zora.
Okay.
Yep.
That hurts.
And then, yeah, if I could evolve those guys, it might have prevented the knockouts, or he might only have taken 1.
Right.
But the fact that I couldn't evolve him up was kind of bad. And then at that point, I think he takes another knockout after that. And then, let's see what happens. I still had, I think, a Zoroark-GX active, and I'm trying to get some Bs set up on the bench.
Right. Now, did he
So-
keep... so I imagine you knocked out his Oricorio, or...
Yep.
Okay, but then he probably tried to stop you from getting Vespiquens evolved, since he
so-
had gotten your only one out.
Exactly. So I do knock out that Oricorio, and I go down to 5 prizes. And then I try and get my board state set up. So I bench 2 Combis. He rescue stretchers for Oricorio,
Yeah.
brings it back up, and just smacks him again, takes 2 more prizes. And at that point, it was kind of downhill.
Yeah, Yeah, that's a really good, a really aggressive play on his side that pays
Mm-hmm.
off.
Mm-hmm. So he played it really well, and he ended up 2-0ing me. So I knocked out in top four.
Okay, cool, cool. Congrats on top four. That's still really good.
Thank you.
Um, so let's talk about this deck moving forward for
Hmm.
yourself or for anyone watching. Um, Tell me, what are its matchups that are above 50-50?
So Lonzor, if you'd say most of them play Muck, right? Alolan Muck.
Yeah, I think part of the criteria for being Lon Zoroark is a Alolan Muck. I
Hmm.
think so.
So I'd say if Alolan Muck doesn't get set up, you can kind of go off with like um, with unknowns and shamans in order to get like you can get Gallade out,
Hmm.
and Gallade just kind of takes Zoroark by storm.
Okay.
So that matchup I want to say is pretty favorable.
Hmm.
Um, Lycanroc, Zoroark, again, I mean hitting weakness on both. That's
Yeah, that's just
decent.
really good.
Mm-hmm. Night March, that I want to say 50-50
Hmm. Yeah, I'd agree.
if played
From
right.
what I know, I would agree to that. I'm not an expanded expert, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
attest to
I
that.
mean, or Choreo can kind of do some damage if they don't play smart.
Hmm.
So I'd say 50-50 for that one.
Okay.
And
What about Seismitoad Zoroark? Do you have the advantage since you have grass type, or do they have the advantage since you need items?
see, I'd say I want to put that at 50-50 as well.
Okay.
I've been testing that a lot because I mean you'd say that's getting hype now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to test that a lot going into Dallas because that matchup's tough. I mean you do hit weakness,
Hmm.
but then you get item locked, and that's almost like a third of the deck.
Yeah.
So it can be tough. You can get stuck at certain points, but if you get Ranger off, I guess
Hmm.
it can help you out a little bit.
Yeah, I guess Ranger is something you want to like hold on to if you ever see it in your hand, and just
Mm-hmm.
hope it stays there for the Quaking Punch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been times where against Seismitoad that I've had a Ranger in hand, but I needed a Sycamore, and
Hmm.
I kind of just don't know what to do in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah,
you can't Sycamore and then versus Secret back, because then they know you have it and they won't even Quaking Punch.
exactly.
um,
And then Whale Lord, I want to say it's decent
yeah, they're
because
weak to grass, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean that's pretty decent
Yeah,
matchup.
that's fine. So yeah, so Lon Zoroark, Zoroark Lycanroc, those two are slightly favorable to favorable.
Mm-hmm.
Golisopod Zoroark is 50-50, I think.
Yeah.
Night March is 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Seismitoad Zoroark, excuse
Say
me,
50.
50-50.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, what else is... Yeah,
God
those
of
are
War.
those are like the four most hype decks, I think I would
Mm-hmm.
say. So 50-50 to favorable sounds really good in this deck's favor.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said what was unfavored, did we say?
Um, I mean, I'd almost put Golisopod Zork like 45-65.
Okay, in their
Or
favor.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, no, 45
40, yeah, I think you were right.
45,
45-55.
55. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry. And Gardevoir can be tough if they play Oricorio
Hmm.
because you need to throw a bunch away in order
Yeah.
to hit that 230,
Yeah.
and then just they can kind of spam Oricorio and it gets ugly. So that's a tough
Hmm.
matchup as well.
Would you say you're probably more consistent than Gardevoir, though?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I mean, if
that'll
I can get
help.
early like Guzma's off and pick off the little guys on the bench,
Hmm.
then it's like you can put in my favor in that way.
Yeah, an expanded Guardy doesn't play all the healing cards.
Hmm.
So, if you make them only have one Gardevoir, it's kind of favorable for you because if you get rid of their Curlies and Ralts early, I think you're okay.
Definitely.
But and they could also get lucky and get turn two double Guardy, and then that's a big problem that you're probably not coming back from.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think we covered a lot of the matchups, tournament report, the deck analysis. Are there any are there any huge changes that you're making to this list since Like this list is from the weekend, so are there any huge changes you're making or techs that other people might want to try that you haven't tried?
Um, the couple I touched on earlier,
Mm-hmm.
swap out Mew for an egg.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm considering that, and then Guzma for a Lysander.
Right, right.
And if I can have a 61st card in the deck, I would want a parallel in it.
Okay, yeah.
It sounds kind of weird, but like if you can get off late game and actually parallel yourself,
Yeah, add more Pokemon, right? Yeah, it
exactly.
sounds nice.
But I mean, I don't know. That would be the 61st card.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool, cool. All right, awesome. Well, thanks for being on the channel. Any shout outs or anything you want to say?
I just want to say thanks for having me on the channel. I really respect what you're doing, your work, and hope you keep it up. And shout out to my man Derek Villagrana. He actually ran bees with me on Saturday as well. So shout out to him. Shout out to my man Jeremy Sussman. I'll have him watch this video and have my friends support the channel as well.
Nice, nice. Thanks, man. And good
Hey,
luck in Dallas.
thank you.
I'll
I
be rooting
appreciate it,
for
Luke.
you. All right.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.